Alrighty, there we go. All the proper people. Alright.
Alright.
Hitting the go button. Alright, we've got all our people here. Should be good. People are loading in. And now, I have not looked at this map before, even though I've seen the seed for it before. Or seen the seed number. But let's see here. What have we got going on? A fairly...
Aluminum.
a fairly generous map in all things. Maybe
I would agree.
Maybe a bit hard for a nomad because there are no silicons next to each other that are above a low.
With core samples, though, you could make that happen. Important to look at the black market as soon as you get down on a map. Core samples are one of those things that can ultimately change your strategy really, really fast.
Indeed. Also that this is a chem colony, so it's going to consume chems, and chems are starting high. Throwing down a scientist in a crater where there's carbon and just be like, hey, I'm going to produce myself some chems and just sell it for cash and do this weird kind of play would not go amiss.
I like Magnus found there. Do you think we should do a proper intro for this?
You go ahead, because I generally rely on Rahi for that.
Welcome to game number 1, Tournament Room C. I am your host, NC Game Wizard. I am here with...
the one, the only, many copies are here.
And we are doing a 4-person free-for-all between Okami, Magnus Slavicus, SG, and Dutchmaster.
And it looks like many people just went for, I don't quite know what I'm doing, so I'm going to throw down Expansive because Expansives always work.
Okami has a very interesting nomad found where they're kind of getting around the silicon problem by just not having adjacent silicon. It had 2 different silicons at 2 different HQs.
Oh no, that is actually perfectly workable. I was debating considering doing that as a way to get around it. And it does work, just not as well as you might hope for.
So the price on electronics is kind of discouraging nomads right now because it's very expensive. You can see the nomad has to buy up 20 electronics in order to upgrade. Stuck at 17 right here, and most of the markets it can get into just collapsed.
Yeah, and that's just going to be killer. I remember my first tournament game. I looked at the market. I'm like, oh, double-priced electronics. I'm not going to go nomad, but the board was looking very good nomad otherwise. Then I promptly forgot that and went nomad. And it just took me too far to catch up into the game.
So, it's looking like both of our expansives have picked up... 2 of our expansives have picked up decent water. It looks like Magnus is leaning into that and is providing food because he's assuming the price on water is going to be going down while the price on food is going to go up because of all the demand created by expansives.
Now...
Yep.
Now, Okami's a bit behind here because... he should be upgrading well ahead of the expansive players to kind of maintain course, and he's not. But he does have an opportunity here because he has a geothermal next to his second base.
Right.
And if he would throw down a geothermal, because he doesn't have to pay steel for it, he gets to pay silicon for it.
Yes.
And he doesn't have a lot of buildings that use power, so he could quickly burn through his debt, earn power money off the steel-using factions and be pretty well set. But
now there is one problem with that. And that problem is it takes 180 silicon, and so he would have to spend roughly an entire minute doing absolutely nothing in order to get the resources to put that building down.
It's not without its problems, but sometimes you gotta go, if you get a little bit behind, do something special.
In this case, he's looking for electronics, and I feel like it's probably going to be his best option right now because at level 3 he'll have so many more claims available, can get some carbon coming in, but at level 2 he might get stuck if he doesn't get those electronics in.
He might. Let's see here. I don't see him necessarily with a carbon claim, which is going to end up really hurting him.
So that was a legitimate auction. The game occasionally just picks a tile and decides to auction it. Magnus picks it up for 28,000, which I'm going to say almost definitely overpaying with bribe a claim on the map. The tile itself is kind of far away and difficult to use for anything but a solar panel or water.
Now, if Okami picked it up, that would be okay because he gets free return of claims, so he could just return that claim and use it for something else. But yeah, for a far away
Magnus in sea level debt right now. Just hit B again by upgrading.
Well, he's
definitely. It's just tough. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, he's the only one in farms. Now SG is going into a double geotherm here. I like one of the geotherms he chose in the middle of the 4 habitats, because if he picks up geotherm or borehole on the patent lab later, he can destroy that geothermal plant and put there a pleasure dome that, instead of costing power to give you money, will give you power and give you money.
That's true. That is very true. It's very good of SG to recognize that.
Well, let's hope he recognizes that.
Yeah.
And goes for that geothermal borehole. And pleasure domes should be fairly good because there are 3 expansives in the game, and they will put a lot of demand for pleasure on this board.
So SG getting aggressive, realizing that Magnus can't buy goon squads, probably didn't buy enough goon squads since they're only $4,500 a piece. I think that means only like 1 bot got bought so far. So attacks, shuts down these farms, which is SG's biggest moneymaker. Magnus's biggest moneymaker. And now Magnus is in a spot where he can't keep his head above water, and he also can't buy most of the claims on the, or most of the black market on the map.
And power right now got a natural shortage, so all those geothermal plants are now making bank.
And are going to start blowing up shortly.
Or getting
or being
mutinied.
Or yeah.
Yeah, so prepare for the black market to start flying.
This is not an auction.
Ooh, an adrenaline boost. Just what
so there the black market started flying just in time for someone to be able to crazy adrenaline boost play.
Yeah, so this would be a good time to throw down a goon squad on something and on one of your geotherms and then boost it and just make bank.
That would be a fantastic thing to do. Alternatively, I'm trying to see if there's any like crazy plays. Maybe chems if you have the carbon coming in. I haven't been paying much attention if anyone does.
Maybe chems.
16,000 for that boost, probably a little cheap, but I can see not wanting to go any higher on it.
And there goes
especially if you're Dutch Master.
But he uses it. Oh, such a waste.
So here's the thing about adrenaline boosts. They have an area of effect. And so you have the option of boosting a large group of buildings next to one another, or you can try and do what Dutch Master did here, which is drop the area of effect in between 2 buildings so that things that are far apart get boosted. Bit of a problem there is that the items only get boosted for like 30 seconds, and the item that is directly under your cursor gets like 90 seconds of boost. So you almost always want to drop your adrenaline boost right on a blob of buildings and not in between 2 groups of buildings. Very rare for me to look at that strategy and say that's going to win the day.
Yeah, and now SG just got a major setback as his farms got frozen. He brought up a quadrangle, which were just making bank, and now they won't be
He is the only one making power money, though.
Yeah. He's actually turned off all his steel and glass just to basically just get pure power profits.
And now he has decided, I'd rather have that steel. Buildings are good.
Yep, and power is dropping, so it was a interesting play there. Now,
the black market is open for
he is currently the cash leader on the map and ran out ahead regardless of his farms being shut down. So, you know, he's just powering through. Might like to see him switch those glass kilns for electrolysis.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening, especially since he's near a good water patch there.
Yes.
He should be able to support it. Now, MG is going into both a pair of chemical refineries and some electrolysis, with chems at 306. It's a very good time to do so, to get into chems.
Looks like he's mostly trying to put those back around towards patents, which it'll be very interesting to see how this goes, because he can't buy a goon squad to defend his patent lab.
And there is very cheap mutinies on this market.
Yeah, mutinies, power surges, a slowdown strike,
Circuits create problems.
a circuit overload just came up on the auction.
Well, the circuit overload won't stop his patent lab. It'll just make it consume double power, but considering he's in D debt, that has a problem all of its own.
That's correct.
Oh!
Something to keep in mind is if you have defended a tile, a down strike will bypass a goon squad, but it will only slow down the building. It won't shut it off.
Indeed. Also now, a little interesting play on Magnus's chemical plants. Because someone stole one of the chemical plants and cut off another, the other one started having to ship. So
yes.
He just, that instant chemical income was taken away. And
it also is a situation where you find yourself losing a bunch of disposable money because it all got put into like 40 units of fuel and then sent to the chem lab.
Yeah. Now, SG, here is a problem. Make sure, especially when you're a new player, you have auto off on, because he is losing money on these farms. They are losing him over $100 a second. He's just leaking.
Since he's going for a buy, that's really painful money to not have.
Yeah. So you leave auto off on. If there's a specific thing where you want to make sure you have your upgrade resources on, then choose to do it on. Just go into your settings, have auto off on. It'll make your life significantly better.
I definitely agree with that for anybody who is newer to the game and doesn't keep an eye on their resources. Just put it that way.
Yes.
I think that there's definite advantages to not having auto off on if you know kind of what you're doing and you're making sure, for example, yes, these farms are losing me money, but the price on food's going to go up, and et cetera, et cetera. There's ways that you can manage to make it work.
Now, here we are in the patent race, and Okami's going to win thinking machines. And considering the off-world price of oxygen at 42K, that will probably be good.
I've not looked at Okami too much, but his other HQ is really just chugging along here. Couple farms, couple electronics factories, couple chem labs. Just everything seems to be working out fine for him.
The thing about it is he's going to need something to get ahead here, because he's an HQ behind the leader. As a nomad, the leader's an expansive. He's just not making it. And all of these patent labs coming up now is kind of problematic because some of them aren't even being used because chems are so expensive. You can't research what you need if chems are through the roof. You might just want to build another chem lab, just sell chems and be happy.
Now, I often say that if you're behind, the way you're going to get back ahead is at the patent lab. So it's hard for me to look at what Okami's doing, seeing him winning the race to thinking machines and thinking, you're not going to be doing too well here because, well, he might be behind. He's actually currently the one who's going to get all of the patents based off of the way the research is going.
Yeah, and look at Magnus here, boosting those chem labs. And then, of course, someone comes down with a slowdown strike because a slowdown strike neutralizes out a boost. But a very nice thought on that boost.
Something you can do at higher level play is you can actually kind of control for the actions of your opponents by boosting buildings that maybe you're less invested in but would still be good for you versus your most important building and watching as they use their black market cooldowns consistently on the boosts over and over.
Yeah.
Just a little tip.
And Okami is also going to win this race on carbon scrubbing. But what I would actually say I think would be slightly better is go into optimizations and optimize chems. People are going to be using chems. You can get ahead just in pure cash by optimizing, and then buy out a sub who's got all the patents.
Looking at $145 a unit carbon, though, and Okami having no source of it, I 100% agree with the decision to pick up carbon scrubbing right now.
Oh, yes. It's going to be very good, and then now he's going to go into superconductor, which is, again, very good, going to double that geotherm from 2 to 4 power. Let's see, SG really should get geothermal borehole and
pick up a
pleasure dome, but instead he's just said, you know what, I'm going to build myself an off-world market, which
that's fine too.
That's fine too, but it's going to be hard to defend. There are slowdown strikes, there are power surges and mutinies, and goon squads are already 30k.
Yes.
I think that as the leader into the off-world, he's going to spend more time shut down than it is going to be up. And he doesn't have thinking machines to help reduce that problem.
Let's talk for a second about what SG could have done in order to kind of change this outcome. And one of the things that SG could have done is when the carbon scrubbing race was happening, when the thinking machines race was happening, could have used his spies in order to check on what Okami was researching, saw that Okami was ahead of him, and picked up a slowdown strike in order to actually switch what was happening. Now, it might have been a race between Magnus and Okami or SG, I can't quite remember, but either way, it would have been really good for either of those players to be doing that and just putting the ball more in their own court.
Yes.
Use spies.
Yes, spies. They never go away. You know what their tiles are doing, especially if they're advanced buildings. It's very useful to know. Sometimes when someone wins a hacker array off an auction, I'll just throw down a spy on it and say, okay, you do the hacking. I'll just benefit from what you do.
Yes.
You take the debt. You pay for the hacker array. I'll just pay for a cheap spy and be able to do...
So let's talk for a second how core samples work. Mm-hmm. Any tile that you own, you can drop a core sample on. You can also drop core samples on tiles you don't own. They except
for tiles that already have resources on them.
Yes. Essentially, they look around for either resources around it, or if there's no resources around it, every kind of terrain kind of has a specific random number chance of just showing up with any given resource. Mm-hmm. So by putting these core samples down on this aluminum patch, he has given himself more aluminum, but there was like a 90% chance he was going to pick up aluminum there. Probably not a resource he really needs, I guess, except for the fact that he put his off-world market on his aluminum mine. But late game, aluminum, kind of not the biggest deal on Mars. So all things considered, it's not likely this core sample is going to benefit him. Probably a few other places around where he could have core sampled, like the Silicon, that would have been much more profitable in the long term if you could get a hold of a claim.
Okay. The other thing I'm going to have to go here is, look, this off-world market is currently making, like... even with its great launch, is only making not that much per second. This Pleasure Dome, with triple adjacency, is making 709 a second because and no one is contesting that market. No one else has built a single Pleasure Dome. Magnus could probably build a second Pleasure Dome because he has virtual reality, and it'd still be worth it.
Yes. So what to do would be to put down your own Pleasure Dome. It wouldn't be making as much, no matter what, but it would be cutting into the profit that Magnus is able to get here.
And if SG had gotten geothermal borehole, he could have taken one of his geotherms and put it down in the middle of a 6 adjacency.
Now, it is kind of hard for me to look at the stock situation, which a lot of stuff has happened and we've kind of not seen it.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to look at the stock situation and say Magnus has an in here, even with that amazing Pleasure Dome, just because SG is in such a commanding financial lead, already kind of mixing it up with Magnus, and could sell out of Okami if he really needed to. though it's questionable whether that's the call he would want to make right now, since Okami's clearly the biggest threat.
Yeah, Okami's probably looks like he's going to get to buy out Dutch Master first, but that's fine because then SG is already going to have 5 pips into Okami and can then just use all his money. Ooh, don't go into Magnus. Don't start this war. I get wanting to buy up the stock while it's cheap, but now he's getting in a battle he may have a little trouble winning.
I'm okay with this move. Magnus's 2 Offworlds mean that his stock price is going up because he's going to be getting out of debt. He's going to be gaining money. It's possible that this could be something where you sell out and you make profit, and that's what you use to buy Okami.
Ah, very true. That could do well. SG is okay. I really dislike where he is putting his Offworld because he is making it impossible to do a triangle anymore.
Dutch Master has had a really tough game here where he started on the probably least good of the good expansive spots. He had to shift his iron. Now his adjacency is kind of messed up, and he's got an electronics factory out in the middle of nowhere. He's got to ship his water. He's had a really hard time of this, and it's officially hit the point where now if Okami wants him, he's on the dinner table.
Yeah, and here's the other problem. If a lot of people are founding one thing, doing something different can be a benefit in and of itself because you are going a different way and have less competition. You're no longer trying to be good at something 2 or 3 other players are good at.
It's true.
So if you're founding last, just realize, can I found something different? And just the fact that everyone went expansive up in that corner other than Okami was kind of an issue.
It's a problem because it means Dutch Master really doesn't have a niche where he's getting something that's better than anybody else.
And one of the things you can do to find a niche and play your game a bit differently is find when there's a high starting resource, refined resource with a low input. You don't start by building your building resources. You start by exploiting that market. And that can be really good.
Anyway, looking
Here,
around.
I think comes the first buy. Yep.
Yep. SG actually running 3 Offworlds right now because of a mutiny.
Offworld shipment launched.
Very good. Now here's another thing to notice when you're in a game like this. The subs, they lose all their goon squads and won't defend themselves. So if someone wanted a very nice Offworld to attack, you take the one from Dutch Master. You hurt Okami, and you get the profit. So,
the only problem with that is $30,000 a purchase mutinies.
The black market.
Well, you'll get 2 launches off of it, so if you have the launches queued up, and make sure you're queuing the right launch, because right now, I think some people are not launching chemicals, because you need to be launching chemicals at this moment. So every so often, just make sure you're launching the right thing.
Yes.
Because you're missing, a few thousand there. It looks like Okami's about to die here. Although,
Methods continue to improve.
I disagree with that decision.
Yeah, I also disagree.
Because now the Magnus sub is going to need a little while to get itself built up, and the Dutch Master sub is going to have the lead.
Yes.
Let's see, has anyone been optimizing? Okami has actually been optimizing, no one else has. He's not
Okami
optimizing.
has a claim in the bank, and I think 5 return of claims still also.
He needs to do something with that claim. Perhaps put down a Pleasure Dome? I see several good spots for a Pleasure Dome.
He puts something somewhere. Oh, he's putting down another Offworld. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. What's going to make the difference in this race is the fact that SG had 5 stocks in Okami
Yes.
before. That's just going to make the difference.
I still might have liked to have seen him get out of Magnus and just pick up Okami.
Because at that point, you're basically going to have 2 whole subs. Your stock price is going to be through the roof. You're going to be making money hand over fist, and it's just a matter of time at that point.
It's important to point out that if SG bought Okami, SG would own Dutch Master.
Yes. That's what
should
makes the
be.
difference. Because you pick up proportionally all the stock that the subsidiary owns. And since you would have owned 100% of the one you were taking over, you would have owned 100% of their subsidiary.
SG not launching. Not launching.
Come on, you gotta...
Probably still gonna win, but...
Yeah, still gonna win. He could actually sell out of a pip of stock here and just end this game real quickly here. But, you know...
So I was going to talk about how I don't like to shift-click an auto-launch resource. That's what that asterisk next to the price on the Offworld screen is. It's saying I'm auto-launching this. I like to just queue up 2, is what I do. And when one of them launches, I immediately just queue up the next one. It's not the most efficient way, but it does mean that I'm always looking at the prices and I'm seeing those shifts when they happen.
Well, yeah, that does help with that, but I do think there is something...
The biggest problem being you end up where SG ended up, where you've got a good 10 seconds where you're not launching.
And now he just needs to cancel those launches because all the money that he has to actually buy him out is caught up in those launches. Not that it's going to matter, but there's little things when you're in a much tighter race that will kill you if you don't do it.
So SG found it in probably the second best expansive location, but he found it with a lot less debt. And I think that kind of helped settle the deal in his favor.
And he did generally play strongly. So
yes, he made power money before anybody else, if I recall correctly.
Yep, he put down those double geotherms. So, yep. And that
just kind of got a strong lead and held it.
Yeah. Let me go into the charts and graphs here just for a little analysis at the end here where, SG just made 112 from power. Some people made more, but I think he made that early.
SG actually did a fantastic job of ignoring patents, ignoring optimization centers, and still winning. And that's not something you often see.
No, you don't. But let's take a look at the black market.
He didn't even have that amazing pleasure dome. Like, he literally only had his 2 off-worlds going for him.
What I will say is probably what won him this game is the fact that he was attacking everyone. 19 uses of the black market.
That's a good number there.
That's a good number. So his use of the black market is powerful.
Yes. Slowing down your opponent's a very important way to make more money than them.
Yes.
Speeding yourself up, also a good deal.
However, I will say that he bought 1 bribe a claim, 3 core samples, and 5 goon squads. So it wasn't super aggressive, but he used them. And